I realize that I'm way late on making this, but I really do like Sentenced to Be a Hero, and I wanted to share my thoughts on this. And I was thinking about, like, finishing it and like actually sitting down to do like a Weaversation or something, and I don't know, whatever. Um, but what I wanted to talk about with this is for the most part, the consistency in the action sequences or action scenes that we got, like a fair amount, or like honestly kind of even more of a fair amount of like action scenes in the overall season. And I was heavily surprised. Like, okay, this is gonna sound dumb, but I fully expected them to blow their budget on episode 1 and like have just really nothing left for the rest of the season. And I was wrong. I was like, okay, here are good things about episode 1. Let's check it out. And okay, for context, for people who have not seen it, episode 1 is a double feature. And it like runs almost 50 minutes or so, but it is like almost from start to finish just absolute insane level of like animation quality and like consistency for like 50 minutes or so. But you can kind of argue that it needs to be, if that's what they're doing, sure. But anyway, for like a semi close comparison, if we kind of look at a little bit of like Demon Slayer, especially like Red Light District arc, and like the first episode was just like absolutely crazy, going in with the animation, just flip around, doing all that cool insano stuff with the Sakuga and everything, and it would look absolutely fantastic. But I was like really surprised that with Sentenced to Be a Hero, we got such heavy quality in the first episode. And I was like, I wonder if this is going to be the same level of like care and detail with like the rest of the season, and even subsequently episode 2. And so episode 2 arrives, and I'm like, oh damn, okay, all right. And then they surprised me with a bit of action. I'm like, oh, we're still going with the action, okay. And some like minor things here and there that would happen with like action sequences and some other like smaller fights or things. But throughout like what I've seen so far, I've been honestly kind of impressed by the consistency of it. I mean, you can make the argument that it kind of looks ugly, but I feel like the counter argument to that is that it's semi-intentional, where they're sacrificing a bit of like what we're normally used to in like anime, and how anime is usually like one layer of cell shading. You have your normal shadows, and like that's kind of it, versus more the illustrative look where it's like 3 layers of shadows and like all these other things, right? But I mean, if they were giving up that for the consistent amount of action scenes spread out through the show, I don't mind it looking kind of flat. I really don't. Or like just sole base colors for the most part with the like lead characters or the like side characters. I mean, the backgrounds look pretty damn good. I really do like the aesthetic of the demon blight or whatever they would call it. It's you'll have to forgive me. It's been a little bit because I don't remember exactly, but those are some like cool designs. I mean, I've not seen anything that's quite been like that, but but I do have to semi-agree that like the flat art style is like okay. But to me, it just more feels weird when there is shading on the characters. It's like, whoa, okay, huh, because then it stands out, I feel like, a little bit more than if they just had not, and kind of made it more intentional a little bit. But that's just me. but I can easily see that there's like an argument out there that it looks ugly, that this is bad animation, blah blah blah. But again, I feel like the counter argument to that is it's kind of a trade-off for being given such like consistent and like, I would argue even like quantitative amounts of action scenes throughout the show. I mean, it's a show about a hero, so I would like to think that there would be a few action scenes instead of just the big one that they did at the first episode. And thankfully, yeah, there have been. What I also do like is a couple more things, and they are the flipping of tropes and also the like background world building that they do. So first of all, I'll cover the like flipping of the tropes a bit. I really do like that they kind of flip the hero trope on its head from like the get-go, that the hero isn't necessarily a good person and they're kind of like treated as such, that they're not good. It's like an interesting subversion of the trope, which is like, oh, okay, this is kind of refreshing a little bit, that again, the hero isn't the good guy, that the hero is an actual criminal. Or I guess with the main character Xylo, in his case, it's more of like, here's this crime he's being accused of and there's like no evidence and he's being falsely accused of doing this stuff just because the king or whoever, the monarch, says so. It feels, at least to me, a little bit like early Dead Man Wonderland, where the main character, the main guy, I forget his name, but he gets set up in kind of like a similar situation where he's framed and people just don't like him at all. They think he's like the scum of the earth, essentially. And that kind of is reflected a little bit in like Xylo a teensy bit, or at least that's what feels semi-similar, but not in like a bad way. It's like, ooh, okay, I'm down for this. And what I really like is that throughout the show so far, we've gotten to see a bit of a range of like different people who've been put into this situation, not just Xylo, but other people, and seeing kind of what this kingdom considers to be criminals, or well, heroes that really are just dispensable weapons for them to use whenever they see fit. The dark fantasy of that kind of like shines in a few interesting ways, and especially like the corruptness, where what actually happened with like why is this going on, and how are these people being considered for the job, so to speak, like what constitutes being condemned to be a hero. And yeah, no, and seeing some like of the other characters and kind of like what they've gone through, but especially one in particular where we see just how the curse almost affects this one individual, and like with multiple deaths, what that can kind of look like. And you know that these criminals, these heroes, don't really get a break at all from being a hero. It's constantly on, and it's like always to the next battle with like minimal breaks. And if they just so happen to die, well, no big deal, because they can just come back and do it again, right? Sure. I feel like it would be interesting to see a little bit more, like see it take place. Maybe it does in the later half of the season. I don't know, because, well, I've not finished it. But, I mean, we do get to see a little bit of, like, what it's like for this individual to be broken, not Xylo, the other guy. And, once again, just, like, how far that can kind of go. Because it's very much when they die, like, a little piece of them, a piece of their sanity goes along with it. They don't get the piece. They come back, whether they want to or not. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting take on this dark fantasy, and how the heroes aren't necessarily good people, nor that they can escape this. Or if they can, I don't imagine it would be very easy. But also circling back to like the flipping of the roles, I do like that they kind of flip the goddess role a bit on its head, and how like other fantasy settings that like the goddess is like this pompous individual who demands attention and who demands to be praised. And I mean, they keep a little bit of that, but like it's less of a demand, it's more of a desire that they rely on the hero to like fulfill this, rather than it being expected and like, you're going to do this because I said so. And I feel like that's kind of a good flip on the goddess, and making the goddess a little bit more subservient a teensy bit to the hero, or at the very least like wanting to aid them instead of just being very aloof or being very condescending at every step of the way, to be like, yeah, no, I'm not bothering to help you, you figure it out. And I like that a little bit, though I could do without, you know, how the goddesses are. I wish that they were a bit older, because it's kind of weird. But you could look at it from this angle and be like, all right, maybe why they chose to do this is to have that like sense of purity, that they don't really know much about the world, and that they kind of have to act through their hero to experience it in some way. That might be giving them a little too much credit, but I would rather not really think about the alternative, because I think we've seen where some of that can go. I do like the world building, like I mentioned a little bit ago, where how they build the world, that there's this conspiracy that this blight has been around for a while, and that this has been an ongoing problem, and only like semi recently that the people in this world have devised a way to like deal with, or at least stall out the demon blight. I like that it's gritty, and you follow along the heroes in this, and it kind of feels almost slightly exhausting, or you feel like you're, for lack of a better analogy, I'm gonna borrow a teensy bit from IGN, you feel like you're with the hero. And I feel like that's a really good thing to accomplish, because without it, I don't imagine many people would like this, or that it would be as successful of a series, or at least first season, and how they were able to like get a consistent action sequence for like multiple episodes, or at least like a big number of action sequences or fights throughout the show because of that, and like having that foundation to build on, which is really nice to kind of see with a dark fantasy. I mean, you have Berserk, and I hate to like point at Berserk, but Berserk really does following the journey of Guts really well. Kentaro Miura, it did that really well. And so to see someone have like that semi-competent ability to like have the journey going along with the hero, and seeing where it takes them, but also kind of like living somewhat in their shoes a bit, and you're like, oh dude, that's rough. Or like, oh, so this is what we're in for. Great. But I don't know. I like what it's done so far, and I'm curious to see what the rest of the show has to offer, and then hopefully kind of come back to this and be like, hey, so this is like how it kind of went, as like an update or a follow-up video. I don't really know, but yeah, that's really kind of it.